Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I am Dave Casler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another Thursday evening live stream. This is at 7 p.m. Mountain Time in the USA, which makes it 01:45 in UTC. Okay, so depending on where you are in the world, you'll either have sunshine or not. Okay, we've got a lot of things already in the chat stream. Um, I just to give you a quick account of what I've been up to. I am between teeth, and so I spent yesterday and today with them shoving all kinds of goop in my mouth to take impressions. And I'm thinking that maybe someday next week they'll be getting me some actual teeth. The problem with no teeth is that what I eat has to be quite soft. And so soups and noodles and things like that work pretty well. Okay, let's go on in here and see what we've got. Optical Man Jeff. Hi, Dave. And oops, no, I'm not going to insert an ad. Hi, Dave and all loggies from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where it is 41 degrees and partly cloudy. It is 34 degrees here with 93% relative humidity, and the dew point is only 32, so only 2 degrees different from the temperature. Now, this morning, when I went to go to the dentist, we had heavy fog here where we live, but when I drove down to the highway, I was underneath it, so didn't have to worry about that. We do get low-lying fogs. They're not as common here as they are in Utah and along I-70, but they get this fog that just settles in all the way down to the ground. And the problem with driving in it, there are two ways to drive. Full speed ahead and pray, or slow down to the point where you're not overdriving your visibility and risk being rear-ended by the idiots who are not driving safely. So it can happen. In California, there's a stretch of freeway called the DeVore Cutoff, and it's now officially part of I-15. It used to be just a cutoff to get over there. And that lies in one of these areas that has low-lying fog. And they have had spectacular car crashes there. I remember one with over 300 cars involved. And it's just because people are driving too fast for conditions, and they hit other people. Now, if there's already been an accident and there's something blocking the road and you barrel into it at 70 miles an hour, it's not going to be pretty for anybody involved. So, anyway, we had fog this morning. I mean, it really felt like winter, but it finally kind of went away, and we're all okay. But with this 34-degree temperature and 32-degree dew point, I'm thinking we're going to have fog again tomorrow. The barometer is rising sharply. It's 30.33 here. And we got a little bit of rain. Okay, let's take a look through the comments. Bill Myers, KA8GIM. Hello, Dave and all loggies. Whoops. Bill Myers, have you had any time to think about doing a weekly live stream? We can try to make contact with you. Yeah, there's an issue with if I put the live stream, if I do, just chatting with hams on the radio and put them on the live stream, that does count as making money from ham radio. So what I would have to do is do it, after the live stream or something like that, and or on Saturday or something. I don't know. And we'll do it with just the radio, and then I don't have to worry about any objections. Uh, Now let's see. Brian Mullins asks, Dave, I'm confused about grounding my coax shield. Will my alpha delta lightning arresters provide static charge prevention, or should I ground my cable shield as well? Well, I just happen to have an alpha delta lightning arrestor right here. Okay, this is the part down here that connects to the ground rod. It's got a little nut there, 7/16 I think is what does it. And then the two UHF connectors, you can put them either way in here. The thing is not directional. And this right up here, which is supposed to be just finger tight, yes, is where you get the spark tube out for whatever. Now this, remember, this is attached to ground. So this part right here is grounded because it's attached to the ground rod, and that is metallically connected to the shield on the coax. Let's take a look at a coax. This is a coax that is put together by a manufacturer of these. They're done by machine. But what happens if you look carefully at this, you see that the center conductor comes all the way out to here, and then the coax shield is connected to this part right here. Okay, and you can see where it's a little thick over there. And so when you screw this all together and then screw that to the lightning arrestor, it definitely, absolutely grounds the outside shield. Okay, now as far as static protection, like if you're doing a dipole or something like that, and it's just a simple dipole, the spark tube will briefly arc over to keep the static off of there. And of course, any common mode currents on the outside of the coax will get grounded off for you there too. So that's another reason for grounding your systems, is because if you have common mode currents coming down the outside of your coax, they'll get grounded right there, and you don't have to listen to those. Let's see. So, let's see what else we've got here. Okay. Been trying to get ham clock on a Linux machine, driving an old flat screen TV. I may have done it. That's wonderful. Okay, great. That was Neil Marsh, Chuck Schreiber. Good evening and happy holidays to Dave and all Augies. N5 KVO from the Hill Country, South Texas. Currently 60. I am jealous. It's very nice. Neil says hi. And Jim says hello from KF4 PVT. Larry Glenn Anderson, KG Host Radio. K6OBB, loved Art Bell. Did you know him? Art was a ham. He was quite a character. Quite a character. Very much into conspiracy theories and all that sort of stuff. And yes, it's true. Conspiracy theories have been around forever. Okay. And Art Bell was, he would do late night talk radio, and sometimes I would listen to him. He had kind of a soothing voice, I thought. And I didn't know any better. He'd start talking about different things and said, da 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 da. So anyway, I have heard Art Bell. I did not know him. I believe he passed fairly recently. Okay, yeah. Warren Baker, hi Dave and all Augies from Chattanooga, WA4BAK. John Ward, hi Dave from W3OJ. Dave Marshall, doesn't underneath the fog mean it's clouds? Yeah. Details, yes, of course, that's true. Glen Martin, Far West Missouri, 39 degrees, 46 relative humidity. Dry there. Yeah, according to this, we got 0.08 of an inch of rain today. Lefty says, hello, Dave and fellow Augies. I'm going to see if I can see the showers of stars. What is it, the Geminids? I think it's the old Halley's Comet, which broke apart, and we see the meteor showers now. Woke up at 3 a.m. this morning hoping to see the shower of stars, but nothing. Madison County Sound Labs, good evening, everyone, from the top of northwestern New Jersey, from N1XV. Roger Crum, hello, Dave. AD9CY, 40 Fahrenheit, in southeast Wisconsin. Listening while trying to evict a raccoon in the basement. I think I told you the story of how we had purchased for my son John a full-size cardboard statue of Darth Vader. And I was traveling, and the kids were with their mother, and so Loretta was alone in the house, and she heard some scratching and stuff going downstairs. And so she went down to see what was going on, and the statue of Darth Vader moved. And oh boy, turned out to be a raccoon. And I think the raccoon was as startled as she was. Anyway, it went up the cat ramp and out of the basement. Okay, so sorry about the raccoon. Well, they'll eat anything. Neil Marsh, Roger Crum, good luck, brother. You're going to need it. Yeah. Bill Myers, KE0OG, has added $15 to the chat revenue and says, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thanks for all of the amateur radio advice and ideas during 2013. Well, Bill, thank you. It means a lot to me. Yeah, keep the raccoon as a pet. I know people who have had skunks as pets. From what I understand, I mean, they're not afraid of anything. And it's not because they're, a lion about to eat you. It's just they're really, truly not afraid of anything. Because if it threatens them, they'll spray it, and that usually takes care of the problem right there. Well, you can have those scent glands removed. And I've heard from people who have had skunks as pets that they're like cats, a lot like cats. And now there is a minor problem in that those glands are not the only area on the skunk that emits that unique and utterly recognizable smell. So you've got to live with just a faint hint of skunk smell wherever you are. I've been very fortunate. I've never been skunked, but there are skunks around here, so we have to be careful. So, Bill, thank you very much for the $15 in the chat revenue. That really helps. People are very busy right now, so they're not watching YouTube as much. Lefty, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to everyone. Yegor Matseka. Evening, Dave. The I-70 is also very popular for unexpected avalanches when driving back from Glenwood Springs. East of Glenwood Springs is Glenwood Canyon. It's a spectacular sedimentary canyon with fairly horizontal rock. And the Colorado River has carved quite a gorge in there. And the original Interstate Highway Commission wanted to put Interstate 70 through that canyon. Well, there was all kinds of local opposition. And what the Highway Department, well, I guess it would be the DOT, finally came up with a compromise that they could put the road in as long as there were no cuts or fills. So much of the road, as you can imagine, is a bridge. You go into it, and it is the most spectacular piece of interstate highway in the nation. And that means that repairs for it always get top priority. which means you can never go through that canyon without encountering road construction, which is a bit of a royal pain. Now, bridges are wonderful, and they hold up big trucks and buses and you name it. But a few years ago, a very large boulder, about the size of a large RV, came down, hit the bridge deck, did not even slow down, and went straight through it, leaving a gaping hole in the road. So needless to say, it was back to one lane in each direction and all this kind of stuff. Well, they got that thing fixed, but I can just imagine the power of that boulder. Well, let's see, I guess we're talking kinetic energy at that point. 1/2 mass times velocity squared. Because it just didn't even slow down. And of course it broke up into pieces when it finally got down to the river, which there's also in Glenwood Canyon, if you're ever out here, there's a place called Hidden Lakes. And it's sacred to certain of the indigenous tribes around here, and I can see why. And you are allowed to go up there and look. Not too terribly long ago, I think in this past year or two, some idiots went up to Hanging Lake and thought they'd do a little skinny dipping and that sort of thing, and then put the pictures up on whatever they put them on, Facebook, I don't know, TikTok. And they ended up in serious trouble with the law because that's strictly forbidden. Now, I've been up there. You've got to come at it from the west. You go into the parking lot. You've got a little bit of a hike, and you've got a serious elevation gain to get up. That's why they're called hanging lakes. They're on the side. It's Hanging Lake, I guess. And then when you come back down, get in your car, you have to go back west. So if you're going to continue east, you've got to take the first interchange where you can turn around and then go back the other way. It's worth the trip if you're ever out here. Now, be aware, like I said, you're going to have a mile-long walk with about 1,000 to 2,000 foot elevation gain. And it's all at once, so be sure you're in proper physical shape for it. Take lots of pictures and leave only footprints. So, yeah, that is very big. Dave, you're a Rudolph. Your videos will go down in history. From Cornbread, K05, K05RN. Thank you. Neil Marsh, Madison County Sound Labs. Raccoons are too smart to make it. Yeah, I've had this nasty cough. Art passed in 2018. Okay, thank you. Yegor says, Dave, whoops. Good old, I don't want to pin a message. I just want to look at it. Now go away. Go away. There we go. Dave, will I be able to keep my call sign, WQXQ968, when upgrading to ham licensure? I think that must be your GMRS license. The answer is no. Ham licenses are made of what's called a prefix, a call sign area, and a suffix. The call sign areas, there are 10 of them, numbered from 0 to 9. The prefix is either 1 or 2 letters, starting with a W, a K, an A, or an N. Now, you may have noticed, if you've flown through an airport, that all of the aircraft have a number on the back of them that starts with N. And that's because N is assigned to the United States. Why? I don't know. W is also assigned to the United States. You'll notice that radio stations east of the Mississippi have a W call sign, and west of the Mississippi they've got a K call sign, like KFI in Los Angeles. There is one exception, and that is a station in, I think, Philadelphia. KDKA, is that it? That has a K call sign, because it got that call sign before they made the decision to do W and K. And so the suffix is 1, 2, or 3 letters. So now I have a 2x2 call, so it's KE0, which is the call sign district, OG. Now technically that's in the way they were assigning call signs for a while, that would be an advanced call sign. But when I upgraded to extra, I'd already been published, and so I decided to just keep the call sign. OG, that's, by the way, that's where the OG comes from. And Augis is from the suffix on my call sign. Okay, let's see. Art passed, let's see, Dave. Okay, we've answered Igor's question. Still missing Art Bell. He was a character. I'd listened to Art when I was working the night shift, kept me awake for a few hours. Yeah. Terrence is here, 2 Echo 0 India Papa Kilo from the UK. Says, hi Dave, hope you're well. I am mostly. I picked up a nasty cold the last few days. And actually what really helps the most, cough drops do, of course, but my inhaler really helps with that. So it's really kind of a sort of a manifestation of asthma. Okay, Madison County Sound Labs. I listened to Art daily on various platforms. Was lucky enough to call into his show in 1996. Cool. Art Bell was an amateur extra, according to Lefty. Neil Marsh's skunk is a sawed-off badger that does chemical warfare. There you go. Now we have Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. Oh, there's so many personalities that make for great shows. If you want audience participation, a good conspiracy theory will bring lots of people. For example, they would say, did Lee Harvey Oswald really shoot John F. Kennedy? Well, there's enough uncertainty in the evidence that people still go with all sorts of conspiracy theories on that thing. And, I mean, even to this day, and that was in 1963. Okay, so that was 60 years ago. And I still remember where I was when I heard that he had died. I was in junior high school on the playground when they announced it. Okay, let's see. Now we have Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. Diego KD9WUR, hello from southeastern Wisconsin. Gleg Martin, Thiles or Mercaptons, give the skunk odor. Merry Christmas, Maligayang, Pasco, and N0QFT. And Phil, KA2QIK, hello Dave and all Augies from Kalamazoo, Michigan, where it's 40 degrees. Zach Miller, hello Dave, love your content, KJ7QOX from Tucson, good grief, Tucson, Arizona. And I have been there. I was there one time when it was 120 degrees out, and I was supposed to board an airplane for Grand Junction. And the only reason I got on that airplane was because I had premier status on frequent flyer miles. and I was the last one selected to be on that airplane. And they told me I had to put my suitcase in my lap because otherwise it would screw the weight and balance and they wouldn't be able to take off. So we took off with this half-empty airplane, just climbing into the sky in this rarefied air at 120 degrees. Wow. Okay. Tucson, thank you. Bill Myers, KE0OG. I kept my same call sign since I was first licensed as a novice class back in 1980. Wow. Now that would have been KN8GIM. And then once you got your general, it changed. They took the N out and put the A in. Chuck Schreiber, Dave, we have a radio and TV station in the area, WOAI, which fell under the same situation you described, like the K station on the East Coast. Yeah, there's, and you've got to think back how long, excuse me, how long those stations have been on the air. I mean, we're talking over 100 years. I think the 20s was the heyday of radio, and the 30s. My neighbor put up LED Christmas lights that create horrible noise on 80-meter band. He and I don't have a great relationship. Is there any filtering I can put on my radio to block it? KD9 RVA. If you've got a pretty good station, you've got a tuned antenna, okay, coax, brown to radio, you're picking up in-band noise. And so there's no classic filter that will do a good job for that. You have available to you on your radio a noise blanker, which was initially designed to eliminate the noise, ignition noise of cars going by. But they've come up with better ignition cables that are high resistance, and they don't make that sound anymore. So noise blankers have been relegated to the back row of ham radio tools. But against an impulse noise like a tick or something like that, they can be quite effective. You also have on your radio, you can play around with the notch filter if it's just one frequency. Now, probably there's a little switching power supply in that thing that is putting out all that noise. And it will kind of wander around the band on the band scope like that. You do have noise reduction filters, which actually are pretty good at eliminating periodic noise that just repeats, periodic noise. The way they work is they're looking for stuff in the signal that is not deterministic. With speech, of course, our speech is, I mean, there's a lot of, what do you call it, extra bits in our speech. There's a lot of redundancy. And that's kind of how we hear each other. There are words, yes, but you also hear tone of voice, whether or not your speaker has teeth or not, and things like that. And we use all of that to try to, in our wetware here, figure out that thing. So if you turn on the noise reduction filter, and usually in your menu is a level of that. Sometimes they'll say, we have 15 noise reduction filters, and I'm going, baloney. You've got one with 15 levels, but sometimes it's a little different. But I think my Yaesu FTDX 3000 was a little different. There was one setting that was quite different. But that can get rid of a lot of the periodic, repetitive noises and make them go away. You also have your notch filter, which I think I just mentioned, if it doesn't turn around too much. So I hope that gives you a few ideas for what you can do to deal with your neighbor's noise. I know how frustrating that is. Fortunately, Christmas won't last forever. Um, Take him a plate of warm cookies and tell him you've got this neat little set of um, what do they call ferrites that you can snap right over the thing and put them right where the lights plug in to their little power cube. Put them right there. LEDs are current-driven devices. And so when you see them in a normal 12-volt circuit, you've got like a 1 k-ohm resistor in series with the LED. Now what that resistor does is limit the current. You find out, you figure about 3.4 volts for the LED itself. Subtract that from 13.4 volts, you got 10. Okay, so you put a 1K resistor in there and you limit the current to 100 milliamps. And it can't get any more than that. And different LEDs take different amounts of current. So I have LED, 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 LEDs, all of those. And the way they work is, and you've seen this if you've ever hooked up a 7805 or 7812 or something like that, you can put it in the voltage configuration where it will hold the voltage, or you can put it into a current configuration where it will hold the current regardless of what the voltage is. And LEDs fall into that second class. So if you take an LED bulb apart or something like that, you're going to find a very rudimentary little device that will rectify the current. Sometimes it's just a single rectifier, so you actually get pulsating DC. And a small device that creates a steady amount of current. Okay. Now, if you have enough current for a light bulb, you've got a current source for it. Enough current for one light bulb, you can put two in series and they'll both light just as brightly. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can do quite a few. The bulbs that we see these days, and I've got one up there, but you can't see it, they've got a bunch of LEDs in them. Okay? And if the bulb burns out on you, you can actually take the outer shell off, which is plastic, by the way. You can drop one of these things and not hurt it, usually. But if you go inside, find the bad LED, and you'll usually be able to find it easily because it'll be dark and ugly around it and so on. Take a little piece of very thin wire, bare, and just wind it around that particular element. You're shorting out that element. And then put the bulb back into service and it'll work fine. That's a very interesting feature of those. Okay. I'm sorry about well, I hope some of those ideas give you some ideas, things that you can do. Chris Goodman, KE0OG, hello from St. Cloud, Minnesota, where it's 39 and clear. Now, this is a first for Richard Forrest Phillips. This is the first time that he's done a first super chat on a live stream, and I thank you very much. He adds $5 to the chat revenue, and he asks band recommendations for a first CW QSO, QTH and DM79KX. I am DM68. Let me just check this thing here for a second. I am DM68CG, so you're not all that far away from me. Have 40-meter dipole and happy to build more antennas. FTDX10, nice radio, 100 words per minute. I can copy W1AW practice at 10 words per minute. Okay, to get started on code, 40 meters, because that's where all the slow code is. 7050, that's the frequency, 7050 kilohertz, and up about 5 kilohertz. There's a lot of slow code. So you can go up there and you don't have to be worried about your code being too slow. Now, we all learn to send code much faster than we learn to receive code. So here's something you've got to be very careful about. Send code at the speed at which you want to hear the reply. Because if you go too fast, they'll come back at you too fast. Okay, now there's another watering hole for slow code, and that is 7110. It's in the old novice band, and it is a CW allocation. There is an organization that you're going to want to become a member of, and that is the Straight Key Century Club, SKCC. Let's see if we can find it. We're going to go to the screen. We're going to go to Google, and we're going to look for Straight Key Century Club right there. Okay. Well, they've moved. It used to be skccgroup.com. It moved to Groups.io here, okay. So if you join the Straight Key Century Club, you will get an ID number, okay, and it tells you all about it right here, okay, and all the messages and everything like that. So it is groups.io/G/SKCC, all caps. Okay, Straight Key Century Club. Now, they specialize in slow code using straight keys. This is a straight key, up and down like that. Also, a vibraplex is considered a straight key. Also, I'm not sure I've ever actually seen one, a side swiper, which is kind of weird. Now, an electronic keyer is not considered a straight key. Okay. Okay. So there are some suggestions for KE0OG, and he adds $5 to the chat revenue with the balloon that says 1. Thank you very much. So now here's the other thing I would recommend. Let your first CW KE0OG be with a friend. Okay. You get on the air, he gets on the air, you complete your KE0OG, you've broken the barrier, and now you can move on. And I think that that's a good thing to do for your first CW, your first single sideband, your first FM, and so on like that. Now, as you get better with code, you're doing the right thing, okay? The best way to improve your code speed, bar none, is to get on the air. So at some point you'll get up to around 15 words a minute where you're comfortable with it. And that's good enough to just go on the air pretty much anywhere. You'll start to get DX when you get up in 20 and 15 and 10, and there's even CW on 6. But 40 meters is the place to start. So thank you very much, Richard Forrest Phillips, for your first super chat on a live stream. Now, Sean, KM6NFO, adds $20 to the live stream, and he says, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and 7-3 from a chilly Sacramento. Rain is on the way. I've been hearing about this atmospheric river up there, and I'm curious how you're doing flood status. Sacramento, if I recall correctly, is about 1 foot above sea level. So you can get a lot of water coming through there. I understand that all around Sacramento are rice paddies where they use that water, spread it out. Not only is it rice paddies, but it's also bird sanctuary. And there is a avian stream that goes up. There's another one that comes over the Front Range in Colorado. And so they're always trying to keep bodies of water open for these birds. And a rice paddy is a great way to do it. Now, there are other kinds of rice that you can grow that don't require that the seedlings be flooded. And I think they do that down around Alabama, Georgia, places like that. And that rice is highly prized by the Japanese. If you get Japanese tourists coming through America, you see them getting on the airplane to go home with sacks of rice, because they say that rice is better than anything they can get in their own country. They don't normally allow importing of rice into Japan because they're trying to protect their local farmers. The idea being, if these farmers went under, they're all old. Japan would lose the ability to provide their own rice. And so that's a problem. Of course, it's a problem for us too. Okay, so very chilly Sacramento, rain on the way. And this is his third super chat on a live stream. So we'll celebrate that, Sean. Thank you very much. Richard Forrest Phillips, Front Range, Louisville, Colorado. Well, you are right around the corner from my two kids, who also live in Louisville, Colorado. And I was there for many, many years. And then Loretta and I decided it was time to get out of the city. And we did. We came back here, we built a house and moved into it. And I worked for IBM remotely for 10 years. And then been retired for 10 years, although that retirement's a joke. SDF, love the shows. Your video keeps me more interested in radio than actually being on the air does. Great job, and thank you. Well, thank you very much. Would the organization Fists be of any use to the ham who wants to practice CW? They say yes. But my very limited experience with them is they're kind of the next step after SKCC. Okay, now there is the Long Island CW Club or something like that that teaches CW, and they actually assign you a real live mentor who will help you learn the CW. They've had great success with that program. I first heard about it at Dayton a couple, 3-4 years ago. No, before the pandemic. They started this as a service project, and this guy who runs it sat me down and made sure I knew all about it. So I put up a video about it, and you have to go look for it on the internet. Long Island CW Association or something like that. It's Long Island, I know that for sure. And they will assign a mentor and take you through as much as you want to do. Okay. Now, of course, if you quit, well, they've got to move on to, others use their resources wisely. Okay, the FIS. Late to the party tonight from Leo Gustafson, KK7CLY, visiting from Albany, Oregon. I understand you guys are getting a bit of rain these days. Kevin Lehigh, 58 degrees Fahrenheit, beautiful downtown Gilbert, Arizona. Now, Dave, I've been to Gilbert. Nice place. It's not too big, and it just seems like a real nice little oasis. My question is, how high off the ground does a quad or delta antenna have to be? Well, now this is an interesting question because they act more like verticals. You can put them at any height you want. And you can feed them so that they'll be verticals. If you feed it to be horizontal, then you want to get it up in the air a little ways. I think I'm actually going to resort to drastic measures here. It seems to calm it down. Okay, a quad or a delta. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the center of gravity of that antenna should be a half wavelength in the air. Now, if you feed it so that it's vertically polarized, that doesn't matter. You can just put it in any height you want. Now, any antenna does a little bit better with radials. Kind of hard to put in radials for a delta loop or a quad loop. Loops are very popular antennas. And if you stack them, you can stack them like a Yagi and get gain out of them. I should tell you that story. In the December issue of, well, I guess it's January now. Well, in the December issue of QST, which is somewhere, I made note, a guy wanted a comparison between a hex beam and a 2-element quad. And so I modeled both and found out that the 2-element quad had about a half an S unit better performance. Okay, about 3 dB. Now, I said in there, and I know I'll always get corrected if I do this wrong, I said I did not know of any manufacturers of cubical quads. Well, you know what happens at that point. It turns out there's a place in Oklahoma called KE0OG, and they make good old-fashioned quad antennas. Now, a quad antenna is a loop like this, and then just like a Yagi, they're stacked. And then if you run inside of it a shorter loop, it'll be for a higher band. Okay? Now, classically, loops were made with bamboo spreaders. And bamboo is not that strong. And so the first storm of winter, or an ice storm, and down it comes. And of course, the bamboo all breaks. Now, these people, KE0OG quads, do this using fiberglass. And you've seen fishing poles that are fiberglass that, man, they can practically bend over on themselves. So if there is an issue, it'll go back. Also, the center where it connects the spreaders to the mast is made of massive aluminum, cast aluminum, which is then milled to be the proper size for what it needs to be. 3-inch boom on the thing for the big one. You can get all different sizes of it. They're all made custom. If you call the guy, it's Mark Chenard. And by the way, if you go to cubicalquad.com, be very careful. If you get the Cubicle Quad website great. If you get something that pretends like it's going to make sure you're a human, run. Don't walk. Run for the nearest exit. Click that closed. Click that browser closed. And then try again. And if you keep, I've never had to try more than twice. You'll get into the site. But do not click on the little thing that looks like it's a CAPTCHA that's going to verify that you're human. That is malware. Now, the guy, Mark, has no idea where this comes from, and he's been hassling his ISP for ages on this thing. Personally, I think what it is somebody has shanghaied at the registrar level that URL and brings it over to his server. And if somebody bites on the bait, he'll start serving them malware. And if they don't, he'll put a certain number of them through to the other one. So, I mean, that's where I'd go look for it. I do business with Simple Online Solutions. They're my registrar. And they have all my URLs like Casler28. No, that's an email. They have dcasler.com there. That's where I get the name. Now you have to go to a hosting provider and you tell them what name you've got registered. And they'll find the URL and they'll set things up for you. But there's a lot of things in there that can go wrong. But don't click on this so-called CAPTCHA thing. Ask me how I know. I had to back out. The thing started putting up millions of little ads for McAfee antivirus. Now, McAfee antivirus, unlike its founder, who's totally nutsoid, in my opinion, McAfee is a legitimate virus protection company, and they would never advertise in that manner. So I finally went into the processes list, killed Google, and then opened up a Google window and found out what they recommend for cleaning that. And it basically, I had to reset Google or Chrome. I had to reset Chrome. I think I went in on Microsoft Edge. And then I went up and did all the resets in Chrome, and the issue has not come back. So if you do get snagged with that, be careful. Now, I did a video which went up on Monday about quads. And I am ashamed to say it was poorly edited. Things that I wanted edited out weren't. Also, I made a number of factual errors. Okay? And so I am redoing I'm actually going to do a script to do it right. Now, this guy is willing to sponsor me. This is going to be, I think, my second sponsored Ask Dave. One was sponsored years ago when I first put up the reference station. The guy who does the power supplies, it's a Samlex power supply, but it was a reseller. He wanted to sponsor a video. And I said, okay, fine, sure, I'll take it. Now, normally, if somebody wants to send me something for review, I get standard terms and conditions. You send it to me for review, and when I get to it, which could be a while, I will review it, and I will give it my honest opinion, up or down. Now, most people make pretty good things, but there have been radios sent to me where I've said, don't buy this radio, okay? So, I had some people from China say, okay, we want to send you this big, massive power box, solar battery kind of thing. But we'll pay you a fee, and we'll but we want to review your video before you put it up. And I'm going, no way. Okay. So anyway, Mark looked at my video and called to my attention a number of problems. And I looked at it and decided that based on the speed with which we put the thing up, we made a lot of editing errors, and there are factual errors. So I set it to unlisted. Now I'm going to put up the new video when I get the script done. YouTube creates captions, and it's possible to capture all of those. And it's one giant 20-minute run-on sentence. So I need to change that. I mean, it even transcribes the and it'll put down UH ... So anyway, it gets all that, but it gets a lot of stuff wrong. So I had my wife go through and kind of do a first pass. And now I'm doing a second pass. And as soon as we can get that filmed, I'll get that out to you, because this video showed every sign of becoming a viral video. It's something different for me. I don't usually talk about Yagis and cubical quads and four-square arrays and phased array antennas or anything like that. They are out there. Hams use them, but you know, I mean, they're out there. So this is a little unusual for me. I made the statement in QST that I didn't know of any provider. There are two. There's KE0OG in Oklahoma, and there's a company in Spain that makes them. That's all I can find. They're not the most popular antenna, but those who have them swear by them. Also, I remember telling you one time quite a while back, my MFJ hex beam, we got hit with an ice storm, which is really rare for us. We got hit with an ice storm, and I looked out the window, and the whole thing was just hanging down in a mess. I thought, oh well, there goes my hex beam. I came by about 2 hours later, and it was all back up. It turns out that was those fiberglass poles were able to take the bend, okay, and when the ice went away, it re-erected the antenna. It's like really cool. And that's kind of the way they do it with these cubical quads. KE0OG has been around for a very long time. The guy who bought the company and currently runs it, I guess has had it about 3 years. He moved it to Oklahoma from Altadena, California. And he uses part of a hangar to do the production and stuff. He's got milling tools and all this kind of stuff. And there in the hangar is a beautiful light sport aircraft. And so I guess I need to send him pictures of mine. By the way, I have been getting some serious inquiries about the airplane. So we'll see what happens to that. See, the thing is, I want to sell. I've had a couple people be a little bit interested, but now I'm hoping these people will get a lot more interested. Okay. That was the Gilbert, Arizona. How high off the ground does a quad delta antenna have to be? I think what I would have to do to definitively answer that question would be to model it. And you want the height right, so you get one lobe going out and around. It's actually a little directional. Now, if it starts to bifurcate the lobes, that means it's too high. So you bring it down to the point where your lobes go out over the ground and there's just one major lobe. And then also, if you pull it down more, those two lobes start to go up into the air, and they don't put out much horizontally. So the idea is to find that height that is just right for that. Let's see, Neil Marsh said he visited Sacramento a few years ago and stayed at a motel right on Jib Boom Street, right next to the Old Town and the Railroad Museum. I was amazed that they brought ocean-going sailing ships up that far. And Neil, they still do. They'll dredge the channel, whatever, every so often. But Sacramento is a port city. And, the Transcontinental Railroad was supposed to link the Mississippi River to Sacramento, California. And that's because Sacramento, California was a port. Now, they eventually, of course, extended the railroad all the way to San Francisco and stuff like that. But still, for big bulk, I mean, railroads are really good for bulk, like grain cars, oil cars, things like that. But if you really want to move bulk, it's got to be on a ship. And those things can actually come into Sacramento. And that's why I'm saying Sacramento is something on the order of a foot above sea level. So they've done necessary things with levees and things like that to keep everything from flooding. It's also the capital of California. And I have been there and have stood on the Capitol steps with a singing group from my college that was touring in the area. And Sacramento is in the San Joaquin Valley. Not San Joaquin, I'm sorry, Central Valley. The lower half of the valley is the part that the San Joaquin River is in, is usually called the San Joaquin Valley, and the northern part where the Sacramento River flows is called the Sacramento Valley. Outsiders call it the Central Valley. I always thought it interesting in my textbooks in elementary school. It was the Central Valley, and I had never heard it referred to in that manner. Now, I'm kind of curious, for those of you in California, what the current status of Tulare Lake is, because that was flooded. They had no other place to put the water. And then there's this other thing where in Death Valley, they actually got enough water down there to refill a lake. A dry lake was no longer dry. It was several acres, about 6 inches deep. And it stayed there for the longest time. But I'm wondering if that's all gone now. They go back to being super dry and all that sort of thing. But to think of a lake in Death Valley, I mean, whoa. Tulare Lake was a surprise to me too. But they put a canal out of there so they could drain that land, prime farmland. And what they did, they got all this mess of canals in the Central Valley. They had water running over water and stuff like that. But I think they finally, they just shut one of those so that Tulare Lake would fill. And it was interesting. It hasn't filled in several years, but this is not the first time that it's filled. Okay. Yeah, right on the... And now there was a hardware store in town called Stanford Hardware. And up above the hardware store was a fairly large meeting room. And that is where Leland Stanford and the other four, the big four for the Central Pacific Railroad, got together and did all their scheming and machinations to get very, very rich off of this railroad. And they hired Chinese workers. And they liked the Chinese workers because the Chinese workers kept together as a group. They weren't a problem. You pay the one paymaster and it all gets distributed out. They were employees of the railroad. And the Central Pacific Railroad was very proud to announce some 70 years later that the last of the Chinese employees had died in China, and so they were no longer going to send him his retirement check, which I bet went a long ways in China. Now, the Chinese only drank tea. They did not drink water. So tea is boiled. So you've got something safe to drink. Now, were there a lot of Chinese killed in this? Of course. Now, the Union Pacific Railroad took a lot of Civil War veterans and a lot of Irish immigrants and put their gangs together to build the railroad. Under the iron hand of General Dodge, who was a Civil War general, if there had not been a Civil War, we would not have known how to organize that many men for a common purpose. Anyway, the Irish and the Civil War veterans would drink ditch water when they wanted to get water. So they were constantly sick all the time. And there was an encampment that moved along behind them, barely legal, called Hell on Wheels. And this encampment contained the appropriate types of entertainment to take all of the money away from these workers as soon as they were paid. You can imagine how rowdy it got on Friday night. And so a very, very different class of people built those railroads. And when they got to Promontory Point, they immediately started building past each other because neither wanted to admit that they had met. Finally, they had a meeting at which were some of the big mucky mucks, and they decided that they would meet on Promontory Point. And at one point, I think Southern Pacific had built a bridge, and Union Pacific had built an embankment. And Union Pacific said, you know, you'd be better off using the embankment. Forget building that bridge. And so they did. They met at Promontory Point, which was a lousy place to meet. And so after many machinations, they moved the meeting point of the transcontinental railroads to Ogden. Ogden is still a federal town. Okay, Hill Air Force Base is up there. Let's see. Okay, KE0OG BLU up here in Minnesota, we grow wild rice, and my mom would receive a Christmas gift of wild rice annually from her friend. Well, that's very nice. You get some good stuff there. Glenn Martin says, thank you for your service to the ham radio community. Thank you very much. Let's see. Lost the place here. Leo said, been working on my van and Jeep CJ and have been neglecting radio stuff. Then caught the crud. Well, that'll get you back inside. Richard Forrest Phillips, do you have any thoughts on the 30-meter band? It seems appealing, but I don't hear much about it. It is there. CW and FT8. Okay? That's a good place to go for CW. I have a little QRP rig right here. This. I built this from a kit. QRP transceiver, and on the back it's got all the attachments and everything like that. Well, I had, and my daughter helped me build this one when she was 9 or 10 years old. We built it together. And, of course, I didn't let her solder anything. Didn't want her to get burnt. Oh, if you want to know what that is right there, you can guess what that's from. That's putting your hand on top of a soldering iron that has slipped out of its holder. Okay. Thoughts on the 30-meter band. This is a 30-meter QRP transceiver. And while I still had it all laid out, I was doing final testing. And I had the speaker, there's a little speaker in here. I had the speaker and all that stuff, you know, 12 volt, da-da-da-da-da-da, all laid out on my desk. And I heard a CQ. Well, what do you do when you hear a CQ? You answer it, of course. And so I had a very satisfying CQ with a guy in Washington State that I spoke with or exchanged Morse with several times. So CW on 30 meters, there are no contests on 30 meters. It's a good place to just talk with people on CW. Now, this rig is no longer sold. This is actually a variable capacitor right here, and it's real hard to get those these days. So they make little variable resistor thingies on here that change a voltage-controlled oscillator. But I really like this little thing. Use it a lot. I think it's about 3 watts. And like I said, I talked to a guy from the Front Range to Washington. It was very nice. Okay, yeah, no contesting or high power. And people don't talk about it a lot because the people who talk a lot are contesters, DXers, and things like that. Don Zed no longer have one-to-one mentors as there are over 4,000 members, but instructors are all very helpful. I am one and only started learning CW in January. Well, Don, congratulations and thank you for sharing your skills with other people in ham radio. Terrence, KD2ANN, Mount Laurel, New Jersey, is late, fashionably late. What's the actual website? It's CUBEXquads.com. CUBEXQUADS.com. Now, if you put that in and you get up a thing that's obviously a commercial antenna kind of place, you're fine. If it comes up and gives you a thing that looks like it's trying to confirm you're a human, close the window, close the browser, okay, reopen the browser, try again until you actually get their real site. He is trying to get something done about that. I did mention that in the video for him, but you can try that there. Okay, thank you for the advice on the Cubex Quad website. I've encountered that hack, yeah. Leo Gustafsson, Edge went nuts on my Win 11, so I downloaded Chrome, and it seems to be working okay. I have used Chrome for ages. I saw that pop up and closed it out, yes. Don Z, you can still get short-term mentors by logging into sessions, so that's good. Optical Man Jeff adds $15 to the chat revenue, which I really appreciate this close to Christmas. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dave, for all you do, and did this last year. Your help is the best thing available. Thank you very much. And my latest? Oh, it hadn't been published yet. I think it's the February edition. Kai is his first name. He is my peer reviewer. And in fact, I asked when I signed my contract with the League that I have a peer reviewer because I told them I did not want to be propagating nonsense. Anyway, he insisted that we take out a short sentence that referenced the skin effect. And he sent me these charts, and you know, with just a little bit of introductory math, okay, using Maxwell's equations and stuff like that. And I got on the phone with him today, and we, you know, kind of answered some kinds of questions that I had. And it was a very enlightening phone call. I always enjoy learning more about engineering. I was first and last exposed to Maxwell's equations in Tampa, Florida. I was going to University of South Florida to start building credits so that when I went home to California, I could start a master's program in engineering, because my undergraduate degree is in mathematics, so they wanted some coursework. And one of the coursework, and I could see that dang yellow book right up there, was called Fields and Waves. Sounds so innocent, doesn't it? I have never had so much calculus thrown at me in my life, even when I was getting my master's degree. I think I learned far more calculus and mathematics studying for my engineering degree than I ever did in my math degree. Anyway, so we were going through this, and I can read equations and stuff, and we had quite a discussion, and very, very interesting. So I'm going to play with a few things having to do with skin depth and stuff like that. Basically, current, like RF current or high voltage, tends to flow on the not on the outside, but the outer part of a conductor. And that creates problems, because since you're not using the whole conductor, you're wasting it. So what they do for transmission lines, they'll have steel cables, I mean nasty heavy steel cables, between the pylons, and around that is another layer that's either copper or aluminum, and that's where the current flows. Now, how far it goes into the conductor is called the skin depth. Now, the skin depth has the same kind of mathematical construct as does time constants. So from an engineering point of view, we consider that a signal has become zero at the end of 5 time constants. The same with skin depth. At the end of 5 skin depths, you're not getting any more. So I'm going to play some games and see how deep these different skin depths are. It changes with frequency. Changes with frequency. So anyway, there you are. Okay. And thank you again, Jeff. Alex Sirid. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. S-V-I-R-I-D. Zirid, maybe the S is silent. Alexi, I'm going to say Alexi. Spirit, okay, hello all. MM5, AJN Duncan from Scotland. Oh, I have a favorite YouTube channel that I watch that comes from southwestern Scotland. It's called The Hoof GP, The Hoof General Practitioner. It's this guy who goes around trimming cow hooves. That's all he does. And then, of course, he makes YouTube videos about it. Now, most of the cows he deals with are fine, and hooves grow slowly and so need to be ground down, because cows there don't get enough natural grinding down. So anyway, the ones that he accentuates and the ones everybody loves to watch are the ones where there's something wrong with one of the hoofs. The more pus, the better. So anyway, it's a wonderful show. There's the intro music is just absolutely gorgeous, and he is a very likable persona. So that's coming from Scotland. By the way, I have Scottish ancestors too. McKinney, which I understand uses the same tartan as the McKinsey, I think. Okay. By the way, I was in Victoria, Canada one time on Vancouver Island, and there was this guy who was in full Highland regalia playing the bagpipes with his hat down there so he could collect a little bit of money. And I said, "That is a Mackenzie tartan." He says, "Very good, it is." And we had a wonderful conversation while my wife waited and fumed. But it was really nice to talk to the guy. He was genuinely interested in somebody who could recognize the Mackenzie tartan. So, let's see. So, welcome from Scotland. Bill Myers, KE0OG. 1 year ago today, we received freezing rain. Quarter-inch of ice built up on my hex beam, followed by 16 inches of heavy snow. The hex beam survived, but the mast not so much. That's interesting. We lost power for 36 hours. Ouch. That's what blankets are for, I guess. My mast is just 20 feet tall. It is a single stick of Schedule 40 aluminum. I think it's 1.5 inches in outer diameter, and doggone, that thing is thick. And it's guyed pretty close to the top. And I've never had an issue with that thing. Now, I have had issues with the antenna. Wires come loose. I need to bring it down again and put a wire back up. But okay, let's see. Harry Rundle. Oh, we had a power outage the other day. Apparently they sent out a notice of it, but our email addresses have changed since then, so we didn't know. And when the lights go out here, it gets dark. Now, I didn't think about the fact that that light up there, which is LED, actually runs on my solar system, as does a light that you can't quite see right there. That runs on solar. And so I could have turned those on. And I have a bunch of these power boxes of different sizes that I've gotten from Chinese vendors. And I got a couple of those, and they have lights built in. So I just turned those on. And I picked one that I think had been fairly recently charged and used that to run my CPAP machine till the lights came back on. So very nice to have a little extra. And I do have the solar. A Chinese company sent me, for long-term review, a 100 amp hour lithium ion phosphate battery. And so I'm going to get rid of my lead acid batteries, which are, well, they're pushing 15 to 18 years old. They're way past their lifespan. And I think I may just give them to my assistant and say, here, take these to Reclam Metals, get what you can for them. And because they're heavy. Ooh, they're heavy. But the lithium-ion battery, well, of course, I had him move that too. It is still heavy, even though it only weighs about a quarter of what the comparable lead acid weighs. Harry Rundle says, hi, Dave and fellow Augies, AC3EK, Harry in Oakley, Maryland, 31 degrees with 72% humidity. Yes, that'll cut right to the bone. David Graff says, I have a 2-meter antenna on the roof of my truck and a cab antenna, as well as a scanner antenna. How should they be placed on my roof? Well, I've usually seen them in a row. But frankly, you know, we're splitting hairs over parts of an S unit with these. Just put them wherever they go. However far the coax reaches. 2-meter antenna on the roof of my truck and a cab antenna as well as a scanner antenna. How should they be placed on my roof? Now, the roof, do you mean the cab roof? Or do you mean your roof over your head that you sleep under. I mean, just space them out a little bit, not a problem. Um, what you don't want, probably the most powerful radio you have, is your 2-meter rig. Now, the scanner antenna is a receive-only antenna, okay? And I'm thinking that the cab antennas are CB. So I would keep those as far apart from your 2-meter antenna as you could, just so you don't run the risk of getting overloading the front end of your scanner and creating a problem. It is possible to collect too much RF energy from nearby antennas and fry the front end of a consumer scanner. Let's see. Optical Man Jeff, Dave, is there an antenna modeling program that will let you enter trees, buildings, and other terrain so that you can see the results in real time? I do not know of one. Now, there are 2 versions of the National Electromagnetic Code, or NEC. Code here meaning software. They were both built, I think, at Lawrence Livermore Labs associated with UC Berkeley. These were each probably somebody's PhD thesis. The first one was done with government money, and that was NEC2. And it was released to the public domain. And so all of the freebie software that you see uses NEC2, which is actually a fairly limited program. Now, they went ahead and, using some of their own money, built NEC4. And because they used their own money for that, along with some government money, I think, they sell it. They sell NEC4. You have to get a license for it. And it's like $300 or $400. They consider that practically giving it away. And probably pat themselves on the back to the point of breaking their arm about how wonderful they are giving that away for such a low price. Well, hams don't always have that much money around. NEC4, as I understand it, will take into account sloping ground, some vegetation, houses, things like that. I would look into that very carefully before spending the money on that. Now, once you have that license, you can use things like EasyNEC, but with the version 4. And now that will offer you a lot more modeling. Most people are of the opinion, and I tend to kind of agree with this, that models never match real life. You know, models are always wrong, but sometimes useful. And so even if you get a better model, does not mean that that's going to translate to real-world performance. So that's why I think the amateur community is largely stuck with NEC2. Now, NEC2 is a Fortran program, and the problem with the legacy Fortran programs is that the source code has long been lost. And plus, back then, they were perfectly willing to mess with the object code to get it running. And those changes to the object code was never propagated back to the source code. That was very common up through the 70s. And programs weren't commented well, and da-da-da-da-da. So anyway, that code exists as an object. And you've got all these tables and stuff that have to be filled out. Well, EasyNEC will help you fill out the tables and, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay? And then it will actually render for you the patterns, which in the real NEC just come out as text tables. So it does a lot for you. Now, there's a version of, now, Easy NEC is what's called a wrapper for NEC2 or NEC4. In Europe, they use something called the number 4, NEC2. And that has a different interface. I've never been able to figure it out. It employs color and stuff like that. But I've always stuck with Easy NEC because, one, I know how to use it. Two, I have it. And three, I know how to interpret it. Okay, we need to, Dave, consider using a spacer on your inhaler. Oh, and wonder what the kit is on the desk. That's this. This is a QRP Labs first version in 2015 of the KE0OG GPS receiver. This is the antenna, and there's a ground plane under here. And then this is the chip that interprets all that, and these are level shifters to TTL. Okay, and the colors will glow: red for power, yellow when it's reading the data word, and green at every 1 second pulse from the GPS. Now I've got another one there, and then I have the KE0OG2 right there because I lost this, and I wanted to set up my whisper station again, and I need the clock. So I'd lost this. So I paid for and had them send over to me a new one. And the KE0OG2 actually has a display that will tell you the UTC time, plus all the parameters that tell you the status of the GPS. So anyway, that's what that is. That was a kit. It works very, very well. And all I have to do is place this sort of near the window. The new KE0OG2 comes with an antenna that you can put up remotely. Okay, let's see. That's the kit in the desk. Spacer with the inhaler. I think I'll have to look at that. I think I've got a spacer. Live in an apartment, so I haven't yet put up an antenna to use my inherited IC718. Put together a copper pipe J-pole for VHF, UHF with help from your videos. Very good. Master Puppet says hi. Artur Ivanov says hi from Russia. Thank you for your work. Wilf609 says I came across the Hoof GP also. It is very enjoyable to watch. Everybody loves to watch when something goes wrong. This is why Art Bell always peddled his conspiracy theories, because people love that. Okay, if you're a guy there that just says, no, I've checked this one, it's not true. I checked this one, it's not true. Nobody's interested. We want something sensational. So anyway, yeah, I really enjoy the Hoof GP. Love the video on cubicle quads. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to re-upload that. Don't forget to hit the like button. Sounds like Spice Circuit Simulator. Spice is a circuit simulator, whereas NEC is, and it puts the antenna and simulates the electromagnetic field. And it does this by the method of moments. It treats every dot on the antenna, and you tell it how far to space the dots apart, treats each as an isotropic radiator, and then looks at all the differential stuff that comes together and finally spits out a pattern for you. We'll also predict the SWR. Okay, guys, let's see. Spice is for circuits, yes. Leo, thanks for the reminder. 73 Senor, got to get up early tomorrow. AI7UQ. Philip, KA2QIK, good night to all. 73, Eric the Wrench. Oh no, now he is going to jump off the edge on William Cooper. Cooper is a barrel maker. But we are past time here, and I've actually got through all the comments. So thank you so much, and we will see you next week on Thursday, assuming I'm in town. That's the 21st. Okay, and that will be the Thursday before Christmas. And we'll just have a good time. So, thank you all very much. I just absolutely love this hour and a half with you guys, and thank you for coming and enjoying it. Again, the purpose of this live stream is just to chat, and if you have a question, I'm Ask Dave. Ask me the question, and I'll try to answer it. Okay, shortwave hour of time. All right. Okay, here we go. Until we next meet, 73.